Any illusions that Vladimir Putin is a master strategist suffered another blow yesterday when the leaders of Sweden and Finland announced they're moving towards joining NATO after more than 70 years of neutrality. That's right. It seems that Putin has succeeded in creating the thing he said he feared the most, the expansion of NATO. Because remember, that was the logic he trotted out to initially explain the invasion of Ukraine. I mean, before the rants about drug-addled denazification. Yes, Putin and his apologists said over and over again that NATO, and by extension America, had created this crisis. So let's put aside the fact that no one seriously thought Ukraine was about to join NATO. Because this was always an excuse, right? An opportunistic anxiety not rooted in reality, but it's turned into a bloody version of blaming the victim. NATO is a defensive alliance, initially founded by the U.S. and its allies after the Second World War to act as a collective bulwark against Soviet expansion. And history shows really clearly why Russia's Western neighbors are the one who have good reason to fear Russian aggression, and not remotely the other way around. Now, I'll spare you the story of Russia's partition of Poland in the 1790s or Bolsheviks' attempt to take Warsaw in 1920. Let's just start with the Second World War, okay? In 1939, during their non-aggression pact with Hitler, the Soviets tried to liberate Finland, and failed, despite having larger forces. In 1940, the USSR invaded the Baltic states, deporting thousands of citizens to Siberia. Now, in 1945, Stalin committed to free and fair elections in Eastern Europe at the Yalta Conference, but he promptly set about doing the opposite, establishing what Winston Churchill famously called the Iron Curtain. In quick succession, Stalin took control of Albania, Bulgaria, Poland, Romania, and claimed East Germany as its own. In Hungary, the secret police installed a pro-Moscow leader. When the Hungarian people revolted in 1956, the Soviets sent in tanks and crushed the rebellion. In 1968, when the leader of Czechoslovakia began liberalizing, the Soviet tanks again ruthlessly rolled in. Soviet expansion was the pattern until the fall of the USSR. You know, what Putin famously called the greatest geopolitical catastrophe for the 20th century. You know who didn't think it was a catastrophe? Those countries that had been co-opted by the Soviets for so long. And you know what they did? They asked to join NATO as a guarantee of their security. Now, there was debate here and overseas. Good people can disagree. But you can't really question why Poland, Hungary, and Czechoslovakia joined NATO in 1999, or why 11 other nations joined over the next 2 decades. Even still, just 6% of Russia's land borders touch NATO countries. Not exactly evidence of encirclement. But Russia's old expansionist impulse returned with a vengeance under Putin, and curiously, always in non-NATO nations, like his 2008 incursion into the country of Russia, Georgia, which Putin claimed was all orchestrated by the U.S., or the 2014 annexation of Crimea from Ukraine, followed by years of funding fighters in the Donbas region. And in between all of this, there were poisonings on British soil, backing Assad in Syria, and the murder and jailing of opponents at home. But the invasion of Ukraine was finally a bridge too far, and the Western world has rallied around their resistance as a defense of sovereignty and democracy. Self-styled strongmen fear looking weak, and Putin's epic miscalculation will not stop him from doubling down. More evidence of war crimes will emerge in the coming weeks, no doubt. But as we confront the human cost of this invasion, we're also confronting the legacy of Russian expansion at the hands of someone who has gotten away with his lies for too long. So look at the facts of history and don't believe the hype. NATO expansion isn't to blame for Putin's aggression, but ironically, Putin will be responsible for the expansion of NATO. And that's your reality check.